Right, so how the fund is looking this week? We've kind of finished the month. I'm still holding two positions at this point, so we're going to see how they play out. Not looking great. It's been a hard month. I'm going to put out there that probably on paper, if these trades don't win, probably the worst month I've had in recent times. But if they win, then it's obviously still a good month, so it's hard to say at this point. As for balances, haven't changed since last time. We are down about 3-4% on phase one. Challenge 200k, we're down 1.5 and 2% on the actual funded accounts. Fivers, we're down. I mean, I've got a little bit of equity from the refund. I'm pretty much a break even, but I've had one loss on this account. Same for this phase one. We've had one loss of a smaller risk. So we're a little bit staggered at the minute, which I like. We did take some trades this week, so I'm going to talk through them. But yeah, I'm just going to go through quickly the month of how we done, or how I done, so to speak. And you can see here that we aren't looking great in terms of win to loss ratio. I am not quite pleased with that. I've made a few mistakes, I think. And sometimes it's hard to compute, you know. So nothing should change. As you get more funding, as you grow things up, you shouldn't have a different mindset. And I don't really think I've strayed from it too much. But I think at times, especially once you have a few losses, it's easy to get yourself into that next trade. Now, saying that, I've took 8 trades in 20 trading days. I've took 4 trading days in January where I took some days multiple positions. Therefore, I haven't traded on too many trading days. It's nothing to do with that. Some months aren't that good. I obviously don't perform as well as I would like to, and I want to improve on that. I'm just here to say that even though I'm 300k funded, doesn't always mean you're going to get payouts every 2 weeks. Doesn't mean you're going to do well every single week or month. There is going to be times where you don't have the best months, and I just see them as opportunities to learn and grow. There's definitely things now I need to work into for the rest of this year where I can build. And as for that, let's kind of finish off the week here with discussing my overall entries. Let me get rid of that. I'm going to talk through them on my current charts, which I've got marked up already. It's probably a little bit easier. If we go to the end of last week, how we looked on DXY. So basically off this close here, so we've seen a wick rejection up to 110, key level. I have changed my charts to TVC as well. We can see here that we've got another key level, 107 I like as well. So the idea is that we're going to come down to 107. Obviously, ideally, I'd like to see a pullback to start the week. That's always better. Wouldn't really want to hit this because it's a bit of a uncertainty whether we're going to see this and we're going to go up, or we're going to see this go up and then go down. Maybe need to come lower before we go up into like 105, 500. But really, I've marked up, you know, this wick now. So unmitigated wick. We have a weekly imbalance fill within the weekly time frame here. We've cleared this area of liquidity though, so I'm looking for price to continue down. Off that, if we obviously closed above that, it would be a bit harder to call. I think the hard thing about that week previously, we just saw a huge bearish candle. There was no wick to the upside. It went straight down. It was a lot to do with Trump coming in, and there was talks about tariffs as well. Tariffs seem to be driving the market at the minute, from what I know. I'm not the best at fundamentals. I never have been. But I would say that all the news that's coming out about tariffs is moving the market significantly. And that's at times where it's worked for me, but at times it's actually hurt me in terms of being in profit. Like I was yesterday, I was in some decent profit. We've seen a massive pullback on the dollar pairs. As for the daily time frame though, what I'm looking for is pull back into this wick, this daily wick here. This is what took out the rest of that liquidity there. So I'm looking at that and saying, yep, that looks good to see potential pullback into, to hold and respect this high and then come down. If not, then there's obviously a chance we're going to come and do the weekly imbalance fill, and we're going to come up into this order block to see a further push down. Therefore, we are just going to judge at this point, for the very, very minimum, we want to come down to this level. I think that's the best call. As for EU, let's obviously take this trade off. I'll put that back up in a minute. We can see here that we've got a weekly. Let's go to the start of this week here. With that weekly close, very similar to what happened on DXY. Now, what we've got here, we've got a lot of things back to the downside. It's a tricky one. It's not as easy to call, definitely down to the fact we're definitely leaving this area. That's very well known at this point, 102, 500. This is the area that we've broken and held above, 104, 600. That was quite kind of a key level on the weekly because It's where we filled an imbalance to carry on down and make that low. We took out that wick. We haven't failed off it. We haven't come down from that point, which makes me more believe that we're going to need to come further up into really this key liquidity point that set us up for a break below 105 and continue to fall below that. There's also obviously a big gap in here that I was expecting we could obviously fail at, but first take that high out as a liquidity point. The hard thing is you're right at 105. 105 is a major key level. The only thing about that key level is, especially during these recent times, is the monthly previous month closed below 105. So anything coming back up into this 105 this month, it could be a retest. The second thing is we actually don't like to hold below 105 that much. Obviously at times we do, but we faked out there. We even faked out there and eventually went down. But generally we like to hold this area as a key support, so to speak. What we can see then is obviously buying this high is risky. You don't buy in that high. So you want to see price realistically pull back if you're looking for buys. Obviously, if you're looking for sells equally, like you may have an idea that we're going to hold 105 and you're going to wait for sells, and then you could be looking for that downside, probably well into that imbalance field, to be honest, if that's what you're looking for. But for me, I have a bullish bias based on wanting to see these now come up. Obviously, we've seen the downside for a very long time. A lot of that push up was due to the tariffs maybe not being placed as quickly or ferociously with the percentages, especially on, I think it's Canada and Mexico, which has obviously given this a pullback. Is this a pullback or is this a change of overall structure? Well, that's where we go into the daily and we want to see, okay, where was the daily high that formed the low? Where is our trend change on the daily? Well, we've took that out. I would say at that point, the daily is more bullish. You could probably call that from maybe even down here when we start to see big bullish closures from the lows here, failing to break back below here. But really the proper trend change on the daily and structure changes have become more apparent, especially as we've broken that on the previous Friday. So that kind of gave me the incentive that we're likely to carry up now. We're looking good for that. Obviously here, we've got so many areas. So I'm very well aware we can come up, we can come out, we can form a high, we can pull the way back into this and then maybe look for the upside back at this key level. That could happen. We could also just seem to have volume and break this high and then pull back. Or we might just go. Now, the chances of us just going, like properly going, is unlikely. So I would want to be looking at seeing some, obviously, failures somewhere to the left. But at the minute, it's looking pretty bullish. So I set up a higher time frame position. You obviously got a daily imbalance fill, then the weekly imbalance fill. I had a position set in two areas here. I had one set lower within this area, and I think I had about a 40 pip stop playing back up to the high. It's about 4R. Now that would only come in if the other trade did not win. So I've took a trade off this wick, and we're looking at pretty much a 40 pip stop again and looking to play up to the high. So it's just under 3R. Now these are my two positions on EU, looking for continued upside. So we'll see how that plays out. And then if we go on to GU right now, let's go on, let's get this off as well. All right, cool. Talk through these positions we set on GU as well. All right, cool. So same thing, you know. What I find very difficult is we go on the monthly, we can see there, we've come into, we're kind of bullish. You know, the bullish leg we're in at the minute is there to there. We've come into the order block and we've had a massive reaction off it, which I took losses down here for selling, which I think was quite dumb looking back. That's where I need to get better on the higher time frames, like the monthly, understanding how the monthlies close and how weekly candles could just be wicks. Like I said on EU, we saw last week come up and retest 105. That is that a monthly retest? Are we now at the high point to see further downside? Maybe we are. As for GU, like to try and sell off a candle here that's just closed and, you know, broken this weekly imbalance, 300 pips body, you know, how easy is that? For me, I really struggle. I'd like to see things like this happen, which we can see after a strong bullish candle. We see a weak candle. Okay, then that shows some indecision around 128. That shows us we can carry on down. The minute I need to expect upside, obviously, unless we start to see candles fail at this level, and then maybe we are going to pull back into 123, which was obviously quite a nice area there that we held above before, and we have previously quite a few times. If we can get that pushed, that would be good. So I'm looking at upside, and if we're going to go into the weekly, obviously I've marked up the imbalance fill there. On the daily time frame, we know we're at 125. We like to hold above 125, although again, you know, the monthly never did close above 125. So in regards to the upside, I would say I'd prefer GU in terms of the idea it would go up. However, the daily is still bearish because this is the high that made the low. We could come down. Well, we failed to come down further through that, and obviously we tried to induce that. It carried on further, so it looks like we're coming up further at this point. And then the question is, do we need to take that high, which then would give us a trend change on the daily? Difficult, because weekly for me is looking more bullish. We are in a daily bearish leg, so I can see how some traders would say I'm looking for sales further up in here. We're maybe coming back into a great area premium wise to get that sell on the higher time frames. But it's just very, very bearish, and it's started to, you know, bottom out. If we look at what happened here, especially with the daily candles, is you've got quite a few wicks in here, well, 2. You've got then another few here. We just broke through that with sheer volume, which I wasn't expecting, but really here you're starting to really see a gather of liquidity. Unlike this here, this is nowhere near as good because at times we were having breaks of previous daily lows and it wasn't as clean. This is like low, low, you know, high, low, high, low, high, low, and then it broke and then it went up. So for me, that's significant to say that maybe we are bottoming out here. That was kind of my idea. And obviously now going on to the daily time frame, we can see that we potentially have I haven't at the time, so we might take these off. We've got a wick in here with the key level and the imbalance, so I don't see us pulling back that deep, but there's the chance Monday or Tuesday we could, and based off that, I was going to give that a go. Of course, there's no other higher time frame I want to set. I don't like the daily fill because I feel like that's going to create a fair value if we obviously don't come all the way down, like well over 100 pips into that area. So we've just left that trade. Let's see how we've done the week then. So how we look for trades, or how we stayed out of moves, so to speak. Monday probably did what I didn't want it to do. We tapped 107, so it's kind of, instead of pulling back, allowing us to play and give room to this target, it's hit the target. Is that my overall target? Well, not necessarily, because my weekly is still looking for downside. It's just made a further low to start the week, which I'm going to look into that, into my data. I feel like that's something I need to learn and improve on. Is there something to say that making a break of the previous weekly range on Monday lowers the probability for them kind of trades to play out, especially when we're at a key area? I think that's going to be good to look at. So I'm already starting to wonder how I can improve on that. And I haven't even took losses on these trades yet. I just know I've took one already this month, which was similar to that on EU or GU. So there we go. The Monday pushing down on DXY. We get the high swept on EU, closing bearish because of the gap. Got the gap things marked in. Let me make sure I've got it on here as well. Yeah. Closed bullish on Monday on GU. We did not break 125. Okay, cool. We did also come into this daily. Just about. Nothing crazy. Let me just make sure that's... Yeah. We've got that coming in. So still making a high. Still coming up on these. Obviously, at this point, EU's made a high because it's closed bearish. So really, I'm now looking for that pullback. What do we see on Tuesday? Because Tuesday's obviously created this behind us. So we want to see, what do we do at this? Now, it's not the best because it's obviously very close. Same for EU. We've formed this. And I'm not too interested in changing my entry for that buy there. That's going to be set from the weekly analysis. As for GU, we've created this as well. So we're going to keep marking POIs that we're seeing behind us. Just obviously not to say we're going to trade off them, but it's to analyze how we react at them. So Tuesday we come up. Obviously weird day on DXY. We do hold the gap. Very strange, you know. We saw a gap not on the start of the week, but the second day of the week. Quite a weird one. Then we obviously see, let's get these no gaps candles on. So I've actually got, if you don't want to check out what that is, it basically stops the gaps from forming, so you can see how the candles will look without a gap. Some people like using the gaps. I personally try and keep away from analysing gaps. I try and look at it from candle perspective. that definitely helps. Yeah, give that a go if you want to give that, take away the gaps really. It's helped me out a little bit just to keep the charts more simple. As for EU, we come down, so we broke this daily. We're still not tagged into our position yet. Assuming we've broken this daily, we need to come further into the next daily. We did have an issue somewhat up here as well. This wick never got broken. Not the best unmitigated wick. We already had come into it before. We already come into it nearly 50%, but we come into 50% and rejected off it. So yeah, we kind of could say now that that's potentially an area of issue. We now still looking for them buys lower down. So we're getting the pullback we want. Obviously, some people would trade off buying off that daily gap. I don't think that's the best idea. Right, as for GU, we've now seen this candle close bearish. So one thing I've looked at is, you know, price. If it's we've seen a few taps into this key level here. We've seen a few taps. Candles haven't rejected, slightly reacted off it, barely. We've then just seen a straight bullish, bearish candle that's not even come back into this key level. We look at this, I would then say, right, there's a chance here that we could take out this as an inducement, failing to come down deeper into this daily, tap 50%, and then come up into back into 125, maybe even test the high. So I'll come into this day here, which was now Wednesday. I was not interested in looking for trades on these, but on GU, I was actually looking for something here. I'm going to go into how I look for that trade. So these are the trades that I'm currently in. So we're going to mark these up. We can obviously, I'm not sure why it's doing that, but we've got the Asian range. I'm going to take off these now. It's annoying. We've got this low. So this low I'm looking to be induced. So we're looking for that to be taken out. And then looking for price to come into at least that level for an entry. I quite like these equal lows on the 1 hour, which was really lined up perfectly with that daily 50%. Looking to obviously hold that area as a stop on the daily. So we've got about a 30 pip stop. Wanted to look to target 125 key level. That's completely my idea here. So that's my idea on GU. And obviously we'll see what happened on Wednesday. We saw DXY close and tap into the daily. So we got the daily wick, which I liked. That's what I wanted to see on EU. We've obviously closed above that fair value, which isn't ideal. But really now that's invalid. EU did come down. It failed to come into this daily, which is nice. We've seen a fair value gap formed, but I'm not going to mark this up until, you know, we really start to see problems at it. By that I mean at this point breaking this wick, because that's my low that formed the high. Yes, you can have an issue at these, maybe even fail completely, but at this point I'm still looking for that bullish bias. So we're into this trade. Let's put that on. So we're in that on Wednesday. We've obviously got a further high formed at the start of the week, and then we have GU. So GU on Wednesday we saw price come down, took out previous daily low, obviously tagged us in off that. So we're going to mark in these equal lows on the 1 hour. So we then got in this trade around 1 or 2 o'clock. Yeah, 1 to 2. So NY open, we saw that being tagged in. We come up a little bit there, and then coming into yesterday, which is Thursday, because this video's been formed on Friday now. Let's have a look at Thursday's candle on DXY. Whoa. Right, we've ended up seeing a bullish candle form. I'm not sure why it's doing this. It's proper bugging out. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's just not doing it. So we ended up seeing a pullback into this gap area, which obviously if you had this in, you wouldn't see it as that. And then it's come up and closed bullish. I would look at this and say price really should be coming up into this at this point as further inducement. If we are going to come down on DXY, going to have to see that. It's not looking great. It's not looking as good. That could be the bounce for us to carry on up. We've took out this liquidity. Maybe we are just going to carry on bullish. Obviously, weekly judgments will be made at the end of this week to decide if this is going to be a confirmed test back up at the highs and we're going to continue bullish trend. That could be where I went wrong this week. Obviously, yesterday, it's still doing it. We saw yesterday come up into that gap in the end. So EU pushed up. We had the ECB rate come out as expected, dropped by 0.25. We then saw us reject here, come down. Tariff talk took us even further down. And now this is looking like it's took out the Asian range. And we're probably going to see that downside. Obviously, my stop's around 700 on EU. So we've got about 20 pips to play with. My judgment on the week at the minute is weekly closing like this. My position will be taken off. Obviously, this has been taken off already. The second position further down. I don't want to be holding that into Friday when this trade's already looking fairly bleak. So I've looked at taking that off. This trade's still running. We have today to see if it goes up. If it doesn't and it stops me out, then obviously that trade was a loss. Same for GU. So GU, we actually saw quite a nice run up yesterday, and I was actually close to TP at one point. We come all the way up into around 20 pips from the TP. We're up about 2.5 R. Bit of a shame, really. We have come down since then. Obviously, tariff talk there, and then we've seen price obviously take out Asian high this morning. GU's looking a bit better. The only thing I like is that currently for my entry, we have seen price just continue up. Hasn't come back into entry again. If we start taking out the low, I don't really like the trade as much, but I'm going to let this play out. You know, I've got to give this a chance. There's all the probability that obviously these fundamental whips could just be from, obviously, it's from the talks or / news events. However, let the technicals play out. This is actually quite indecisive. The price action here since the end of Monday, since the start of Tuesday, has pretty much almost just consolidated within like an 80 pip range. So really I want to see the breakout of that today and continued upside or downside on GU on the 4 hour and above really. You can see the consolidation period there, it's not great. So you don't want to get enticed out of your trade if you're in one just due to that. It could be a loss this trade, but I've got plenty of room to play with still. We're looking at 60 pips from my stop loss at the minute, and I wouldn't want to see the week close bearish obviously at this level. At the minute, this weekly is not too strong. So we're not seeing a strong candle like we are on EU at the minute. If we actually look at the difference between these bodies, we're looking at 100 pips at the minute, whereas GU isn't as big at all, 50. So there is a clear difference between these. I do guess the euro is looking quite weak. There's not great fundamentals on that. And again, maybe taking that into account when I'm taking trades could be needed to be done, especially with the rate coming in. But these are all things I've got to obviously learn and improve on. And it will just take time. And sometimes you don't have the best month. Obviously, it's hard when things are going well to think that you'll have a period like this. You have to pick yourself up and go again. At the end of the day, even if I take 2 losses here, my month will not be too bad. Like, yes, I'm not happy with that. That needs to be improved. That isn't reflective of what my results were last year. But I'm only down less than a 3R for the month. You know, my winning months have always been more than that, so to speak. So all I'm going to need is to take is like a 5 to 10 R month next month, and that will take me back up into profit for the year. So I'm playing the long game, not just going to focus on, look, that's the year we've got left. We can't be getting caught out on what's happened here, especially with the Trump stuff. Going to have to get used to the way that is. Going to have to understand maybe how the markets were back in 2016 to 2020 when he was in power. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that works. But going to have to make sure I go a bit more steady on taking entries, make sure they are the best probability setups that I can take. And if I do that, then things won't go that much astray, will they? But yeah, cheers guys. Hope you guys have a great month. We're obviously going to come back with another one next week. And we'll see them trades, but they're not looking great. But that is the game we play. You've got to put risk on the table. Obviously, that is trading in itself. Have a good one. Take care. Peace.